Welcome to Motorbike Explorer. In the last episode, I had limped my poorly repaired bike from Guatemala City to Chiquimula, all the while searching for a better workshop to replace the damaged transmission output shaft. I came across this rather large dealership in town who informed me they had the tooling and expertise to perform the repair. I had a look around their shop and was actually impressed with their operation, so with fingers crossed, I agreed to leave the bike there. With no delay, the mechanics began removing the engine from the frame. It took only a few hours to have everything dismantled. I told the mechanic to take lots of pictures during the disassembly, just to give me some peace of mind. Now that I had a clear idea of all the replacement parts necessary for the job, I took a local bus back to my camp at Los Laureles, which was about 30 minutes away. I went straight for my laptop and immediately got on the internet. I found an online parts catalog from a vendor in the United States. We'll see how long it will take for the parts to arrive here in Chiquimula. There was not much to do while I waited patiently for the parts to get delivered. It's very hot in this part of Guatemala, but thankfully the humidity is low. Daily activities included walking the grounds of the hotel, strolling along the streets of Chiquimula, working on new episodes, hanging out at the restaurant while watching movies on my laptop, and watching the passing thunderstorms. As the days tick by, my patience slowly diminishes. I'm beginning to accept the fact that I am not entirely in control of this trip. I'm simply along for the ride. So it's important to stay positive, patient, and not give up because of a big setback like this one. The staff at Los Laureles mentioned that there will be a street procession in town celebrating Semana Santa, or Holy Week. They said it wouldn't be as grand as the one in Antigua, Guatemala, but with my schedule all clear, it's definitely worth checking out. During the day, the locals made beautifully colored alfombras that decorated the streets surrounding the central park. It's a shame they will be later destroyed by the passing processions. The alfombras are carpets of colored sawdust that portray some kind of image or design. They are commonly decorated with flowers, pine needles, fruits and vegetables, and religious or other symbolic figurines. By the time the procession started, there were massive crowds of spectators gathered along the parade path. The parade floats are mostly made of wood and have statues of Jesus, Mary, and other various saints. The scenes commonly depict the Passion of Christ. The floats are extremely heavy and are carried by hand throughout the city. Some of the floats can be very tall, so they are led by a team with long wooden poles to lift any utility wires that may be in the way. Adults aren't the only ones that partake in float carrying. This is the first time I've seen children carrying these heavy floats, albeit a much more suitable size. The Catholic and Maya religious traditions have subtle similarities, which may be why Catholicism has gained a lot of momentum in Guatemala's history. To this day, you can still find references to Maya cultures in the Alfombra art. After 25 days living in my tent behind a public swimming pool, I am happy to say my bike is finally ready. That means I have to clean up, organize all of my stuff, load the bike, and say my goodbyes. I've gotten to know many of the staff here quite well, and I think I've left a mark here in Chiquimula that will stay for some time. Meet my new friend Juanito, a person who understood my stress, but always greeted me with a big smile. Thank you for everything, Juanito. You made a total stranger feel at home. Goodbyes are never fun, but I wish you and your friends at Los Laurales the best.
Gracias. Chao, que vaya bien.
With the bike running and shifting like a Swiss watch, it's time to chew up some miles and make my way into Honduras. Guatemala certainly left a lasting impression on me. The landscape is beautiful, the people very welcoming, and the culture very fascinating. What more could you ask for visiting a foreign country? The ride from Chiquimula to the border with Honduras didn't take that long. From the border, I will then make my way over to the city of Copan, Ruinas, to visit the ancient city of Copan. Once I arrived at the border, I was faced with an unusual paperwork challenge regarding my bike. It appears that I never received my vehicle import permit when I entered Guatemala, and I think it was because of the protests that were taking place at the Mexican border. I remember being confused during the protests as to why a permit was not needed for Guatemala. Now at the Honduras border, the only solution was to leave without my bike and re-enter in order to process the import permit. After about a 4-hour ordeal, I was finally able to leave Guatemala now for the second time and with double the stamps. Unbelievable. Today's small border lesson taught me to always give yourself plenty of time to cross. I'm just glad Copan Ruinas isn't that far away. At first impression, Copan Ruinas appears to be a very charming town with a good selection of cafes and restaurants. Now I just have to find my hotel. The border problems I had earlier today fade away quickly now that I have ancient ruins to visit tomorrow. Time to charge up my camera batteries and clear out some memory cards. I can't wait. When I first entered the ancient city of Copan, I had shivers run up and down my spine. There is something very mysterious about this place. With a peak and dense population of over 20,000, the city was very important to the Maya civilization. Evidence of inhabitants in the region dates back to as far as 1500 BC, and the city functioned as the religious, civil, and political center for the Copan Valley, even though it was significantly smaller than the not-too-distant city of Tikal. Parts of the city have been uncovered and restored, while other parts still remain under the grasp of the surrounding forest. The ruins were discovered back in 1570, after its abandonment sometime after 900 AD. There were many expeditions led after 1834 to document and excavate the city. During the 1930s and 40s, a large restoration project was sponsored by the Carnegie Institution of Washington, D.C., and the Guatemalan government, and in 1980, the site made it to the UNESCO World Heritage List. To this day, work is still underway on excavation and restoration, but looting and weather erosion remain a serious threat. The site contains many stelae, altars, temples, inscriptions, and sculptures, and a level of detail far greater than most of the other sites I visited in the northern Mesoamerica region. According to glyphic texts, Copan had many rulers over the years, 17 in all, that ruled from 426 to around 900 AD. Most archaeologists only recognize 16 rulers, as documentation of the 17th is unclear or incomplete. The abundance of glyphic text and diversity of artwork here are considered to be world-renowned and give archaeologists a clear understanding of the history of the city. The stelae depicting the various rulers of Copan are brilliant in detail. They certainly portray a sense of power and evoke fear to their onlookers. Pictured here is an ape-like sculpture known as the Storm God, whose body is depicted in the underworld and head rising into the superworld. And here is a sculpture of a jaguar illustrating a dance into the nighttime underworld. Altars I and H were positioned very close together, but the religious function is not entirely clear. Archaeologists believe altars were used as pedestals for incense burners, ceremonial fires, and other religious offerings. The southern side of the city contains an area called the Cemetery Group, which includes a number of small structures and plazas. This part of the city is positioned very close to the Copan River, which at one point, not long after the city's abandonment, had changed course, destroying the eastern portion of the Acropolis or East Court. The water's hydraulic action washed away 10 separate buildings in the process. Here is the result of the river's damage that had exposed the vertical cross-section of the eastern edge of the eastern court, also revealing tunnels in the process. Moving north into the eastern court, you immediately get a sense that it was used as some kind of stadium for mass viewing. In the center are 3 altars, perhaps used for religious ceremonies. To the west is a sculpture of the sun god, Kenichi Ahau, surrounded by signs of the planet Venus. Temple 18 features richly decorated support columns that illustrate the 16th ruler, Yaks Passage Chan Yopat, performing war dances with a spear and shield. The temple led down to a vaulted tomb that had been looted in ancient times. It most likely contained the body of the ruler. A long tunnel is located underneath the East Court, which led to the Rosilla Temple. The temple was buried under Structure 16 and is very well preserved. Looking to the north are Temples 22 and 22A. Temple 22A was built on the west side of Temple 22. The building is known as Papal Na, which means mat house, and Papal Atat, which were places for community gatherings and council. The building was completed during the reign of the 14th ruler, Ajao Kaak Japlaj Chan Kawil, or Smoke Monkey. The skulls under the entrance most likely represent the word of the ancestors who dwelt within the underworld. The corner features sculpted masks of the mountain god Wits and the rain god Chak. Pictured here are one of 2 Powhatan heads found in the city. The stone carvings are often referred to as the Old Man of Copan and represents wisdom. The heads may also represent an elderly manifestation of the great god Itzamna, who was responsible for creating the universe. Itzamna was also the god of scribes and knowledge. From the southern half of the city, I made my way toward the northern half where the Great Plaza is located. This area is relatively flat and is much more open and spread out compared to the confined southern half. It contains one of the most remarkable discoveries ever found in the ancient world of Mesoamerica. The hieroglyphic stairway features 62 steps formed from over 1,250 blocks of stone. The text describes the entire history of the city. With over 2,200 individual hieroglyphs, the stairway is one of the most elaborate and longest Mayan texts ever discovered. The stairway was completed by Kayak Yipyaj Chan Kawil, the 15th ruler known as Smoke Shell. This is a detailed stele representing the ruler. When discovered, steps 1 through 15 remained intact. However, the remaining steps needed to be reconstructed. At the time of restoration in the 1980s, little was known on how to decipher the hieroglyphs, so the blocks were just placed in random order, making it extremely difficult to translate during later times. Pictured here is a timeline of the different phases of construction of Structure 26 and the hieroglyphic stairway. The stairway was started by Oaxa Klajun Uba Kawil, the 13th ruler of Copan, known as 18 Rabbit. Archaeologists uncovered 12 incense burners here, and it is believed that these burners represent the 12 rulers that came before 18 Rabbit. The incense burners were probably used to evoke the spirit of the 12 rulers, giving 18 Rabbit divine power or supernatural instructions. One of the earliest phases of Structure 26 had a burial tomb located inside, containing a Teotihuacan-style burial of a woman accompanied by a wide variety of offerings that included mercury, jade, quartz, animal bones, and the severed heads of 3 men. The ball court located just northwest of the stairway is very common to all the ancient cities in the Maya civilization. The game is played with a heavy rubber ball in which players can only strike using their hips. The goal is to strike the ball through a ring mounted on the upper wall. The winning team is then rewarded with a ceremonial alcoholic drink and are then sacrificed. Moving further north in the Great Plaza, you'll find many sculptures, altars, pyramid structures, and stelae scattered across the grounds. Seven magnificently sculpted stelae are located in this plaza and were erected by the 13th ruler known as 18 Rabbit. The stelae contain symbolism to portray the ruler as a god, surrounded by supernatural powers that his divine lineage had been born with. The stelae are very detailed in certain areas. You can see deep reliefs that add more realism and dimension to the sculptures. Some of the stelae still contain traces of pigment, most likely of red cinnabar. The double-headed cosmic turtle altar sits in front of a stela of 18 Rabbit. Turtles in the Maya culture represent ancient wisdom and the carriers of the earth. In my opinion, the stelae are what makes Copan stand out so much more than the other cities I've visited. They are masterful works of art, even though they are creepy looking. The early stelae were erected as memorials to record important events such as death or secession of a ruler. Their purpose later shifted and were produced every 5 years as part of the Kahatun period festival and became an integral part of reenacting religious events. These festivals also required a sacrificial altar, which is why so many stelae are accompanied by one. Even though Copan is much smaller in size compared to other ancient cities, the level of detail and diversity of artwork requires all day to admire and appreciate. You'll certainly leave feeling terrified and shocked by the haunting faces, skulls, and human-like animal sculptures that will cause a nightmare or two during your stay. On the way back to my hotel, I reflect on what I had just witnessed. Why did Copan have such a large quantity of sculptures and hieroglyphs when compared to the other cities in the ancient Maya world? Did its location in the extreme southern part of Mesoamerica have anything to do with it? Did its abundance of natural resources for trade allow for more exquisite artwork to be commissioned? I hope to find more answers through further research. After spending a couple of more days in town to soak up all the sights and sounds, sample some delicious coffee, and get a little organized, it was time to pack things up again and hit the open road. I want to thank you for joining me along my travels through Guatemala and Honduras. It's been a wild ride so far that started way back in New Jersey, and I have so much more to see of Central and South America, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed what you saw, check out some of the other episodes in the channel. It's a good way to sample a country if you're thinking about doing some overland travel on your own. Join me in the next episode where I try to navigate this mountain road shortcut in order to save 3 hours on the highway, which didn't exactly turn out as planned. Until next time, safe travels everyone, and have a wonderful day.